Now, the proposition that they are footing at your feet here is that if you achieve something they called hemisync, which means hemispheric synchronization, you will achieve this laser beam, which you might be quite familiar with if you've ever looked into the funny stuff like astral projection. Now, the way that you could understand this is quite interesting, and this is going to be an icky photo. So if you don't like icky things, we're going to look at a brain right now. You've got these two big lumps, either side of your head. Your head's divided into two, and then you've got in the middle of them, you've got this really weird yolk called the pineal gland. And because we're all drinking the fluoride, because they put the fluoride in the water, I wonder why they do that. This is all calcified, and that's not that big of a deal, because it's not like the pineal gland does anything anyway. But the CIA seem to suggest that perhaps this pineal gland is actually quite important in some way. I don't know why they'd say that. These irrational fools. I think we should kind of send this stuff to Reddit and allow the Reddit to debunk it, to send it to Snopes to fact check it. But the sort of idea is that this centerpiece of the head actually has a relevance of sorts. And the way you think about it is that, of course, the way these two hemispheres of the brain work, you've got your left and your right, is that the left takes care of one type of consciousness, which I've talked about at a litany of different ways, and the right takes care of another type of consciousness, which I've talked about all the time, everywhere, okay? And they are separate. Actually, around about here, they divide. So the brain is quite unified, and then it splits, especially when it goes to your higher functioning. And in humans, it's more divided than all the animals. And so the thing that unites the two hemispheres is a very, very interesting thing, because this is the corpus callosum, this is the all this type of stuff. And of course, the pineal gland is part of that, it seems, or it's in the middle anyway. And the idea behind hemisync is that you achieve the unity of these two things. And so unity of the two brains can only really be achieved in the parts that they connect in, which seems to be like this middle portion here. And these CIA guys, these silly nonsense, banging on about the astral self and all that, they suggest that if you can get the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere synchronized and communicating together at the highest level, they will begin to work together, and then they will begin to create a unified consciousness. And now, what does that mean? That's a very, very weird way of thinking. Well, if you want to think about it this way, there's all this electricity in your body. This is what your life is. This is what you are. When you die, when you keel over and the death comes to you, that bad thing comes to you, the electricity leaves your body, your heart stops beating, there's no more zap inside of you, the zap is over, big zap has finally got you. And what happens is you crumble, you decay, you go away, you form, you return into the realm of matter, if you will. Or so you think. But actually this electricity, obviously it's energy, and energy can never be created or destroyed, which is interesting. And what happens is that electricity leaves you, and then everybody points at you and says you're dead, that it's gone, the soul has left, maybe is the way they would have seen it in the past. Now for us, what we've got to ask ourselves, and this is a very, very interesting thing, is that, what is that electricity? Why is it so important and powerful? What does it mean? What does it do? Now when it enters into our body, it animates us. It makes all this dead matter actually form something quite pragmatic and useful. It's very, very interesting when you think about it, because all the cells in your body, or the vast majority of them, completely change every year for new cells, for new pieces of matter you pick up from your food and from your environment and whatnot. And so you have a very, very interesting question. It's like, what the hell exactly are you? And you seem to be this ordering force, which seems to be this energy of some sort. The energy seems central, because when that goes, well, that's you done forever, man. So it's hard to know what to make sense of that. Now, all of this comes to the idea of how this energy manifests itself in your body, because obviously your heartbeat is very dull and simple energy, although very important. And that's the same way as, the electricity that runs your lamps in the corner of your room is very dull and simple. It just makes the room bright like it is now, because it's 3 p.m. in Ireland and the sun went down. And now your interesting thing, though, is that how your brain your body, your life has adapted this energy. So, for example, your brain has created very complex organs to deal with energy. And you could think of your left brain and your right brain, your brain itself, as like a complex tool to manage electricity and energy, to make it do cool things. The same way as a lamp is a very simple form of using electricity, whereas a laptop or a computer is a very complicated form of using it. And so in some sense, you have these two computers. Now, when you just don't use electricity efficiently, it just turns into lightning bolts and you don't really see it that much. Or maybe as a lamp, it's not that sophisticated. But the more focused you get with it, the more powerful it becomes. The more you learn to master the electricity, the better. Now, evolution is conservative. Nature is generally conservative. And so what she does with you is that she gives you this left hemisphere and this right hemisphere. And it's got these very, very interesting ways of using your electricity. And it gets you to do certain things. And I talk about this all the time on my channel. You can go out and you can live in a left brain mode of consciousness and have all these problems, and then right brain can come in and be very, very dramatic and all this type of stuff. But generally speaking, nature is just letting these two kind of tick about and do their thing in a very, very basic way, very, very incompetent way, if you will, or simple way. Now, what these people notice in the CIA is that there's a difference between this and a trained mind, the lamp and the laser. Melissa Yeager uses a metaphor to help clarify the process involved in the use of hemisync in the gateway experience. She points out that the human mind in its natural state may be likened to an ordinary lamp, which expends energy in the form of both heat and light, but in a chaotic and incoherent way, which diffuses its energy over a wide area of rather limited depth. On the other hand, the human mind under the discipline of hemisync acts after the fashion of a laser beam, which produces a disciplined stream of light. The stream of energy is projected with total coherence of both frequency and amplitude, such that the surface area of a laser beam contains billions of times the concentrated energy found in a similar surface area on the sun. Gateway assumes that once the frequency and amplitude of the human brain are rendered coherent, it is possible to begin accelerating both so that the human mind is soon resonating at an even higher vibrational level. So this just sounds like some type of tape that plays in the background of a yoga class, but here you have the US Army, the military, exploring this stuff because it might have some serious consequences of some sort. Now, what they're proposing is that you unify all of this stuff. You get all the electricity working in its most unified sense. It's channeling itself through the pineal gland. The two brains are talking to each other, and you're this unified ball of energy. All that electricity inside you is getting used all towards one goal. And what they propose is that you achieve this. You get the heart, which is a huge source of energy. More electricity comes from your heart than comes from your head. And you've got these two magic, brilliant institutions in your head, which is the two sides of your brain. And you get these that are usually separate and acting as individuals. And that is weird in and of itself. You get them unified together, connecting with this energy in the heart. And then it all goes to form this focused ray of energetic power, electricity, consciousness, whatever you want to think about it. You can think of it like when you take drugs and you get you get into a state, you get into a mood, you get filled full of energy, you feel high energy. It seems like it's something along those lines. You create a sort of very, very prominent and powerful energy. And this is what they call your remote self. Now, this is a very, very weird way of thinking, and we're going to have to talk about this for a second. And then with this remote self, you can actually go out and do stuff in the world. You can go and look through walls and all these type of things and travel to other dimensions, so they claim.